Hello, I'm David Rollow. I probably ought to read something of Glenda's. I can find your section of the book here. Because I haven't read it. I don't want to just read my own poems. I'll read some of my own too. But I want to read this one, no poetry.
You better read Hostage, or else I'll...
Better read what?
Hostage.
Yeah, I will. Promise. So, this is an uncharacteristic poem of Glenda's, but I like it a lot. It's called Hard to Love You. And it's probably a universal truism, isn't it? Oh, poetry, you make it hard to love you. No bard can take... One more down, right? Is that better? Yeah. Hard to love you. I don't have to yell. Oh, poetry, you make it hard to love you. No bard can take such a rake. Please, such a tease. You dazzle me. Flash away before I touch you. Whisper rich secrets, the world's hopes and regrets in my ear when I'm falling asleep at night. But morning finds me awake. You in flight without warning. Sometimes at dawn I hear you go, lilting past my window in another song. When I most long to possess you, I cannot find you at all. When I endeavor to forget you, forever, you call. If I find you in the words of another, I am a jealous lover. Though I must admire those who capture you for a moment or an hour. I have found you with quite a reputation around this town. I have heard your history in pubs from boors who drool over how you seduced some poor fool or another who thought he had you on a string but couldn't keep you. What a shame, all the aesthetic crimes committed in your name. Many claim that they have loved you. Most at least boast that they've made your acquaintance, but few of these even know you by sight. What a delight it would be to spurn you in turn. Not yield, but my fate is sealed. I will listen for your occasional knocks, and no locks will bar my portals, though, poetry, I know you'll never stay with any of us mortals. Maybe everybody has a poem in them about that kind of thing.
I love that one.
It's a great poem, I think. And it just forms a sort of natural segue into the first of my poems, which wasn't my plan, but that's how it worked out, called Hostage to the Muse. I wrote this in I think about 1987, when I was traveling in Europe, and I was staying in a place in the French Alps near a town called Saint-Gervais, with a wonderful view of Mont Blanc, which is a snow-capped peak in the French Alps and stays snow-capped all year long, the only one that does. And when you look at it, it seems to float kind of like one of those hallucinations at the mirages at the end of the highway, you know, like the illusion of water in the distance. Somehow there's a separation at the very base of it between the earth and the mountain. So it seems to float there. And Shelley wrote a wonderful poem about it where he more or less compares it to the poetic mind. So I felt myself being inspired by the locale. And it was also a place where the French resistance actually did something real, as opposed to clowning around. It's called Hostage to the Muse. I'd like to explain one other thing. I said it was 1987 when I wrote this. There's a surprise at the end here. None of that stuff had happened yet. You'll see what I mean when I get there. My muse holds me hostage with a loaded gun in my ear. She wears horn rims, pins back her hair in a tight bun, severe under her beret. Her name, she says, is Cleo. I've got a rendezvous with history up here in this mountain redoubt where once the Maquis fought off Nazis and their black Tiger tanks. Flamethrowers, Sten guns, blue eyes, fair skin, blonde hair. Pale northern men, bloodless, bland, without a trace of pigmentation. My muse is on vacation, trying to get away from poets in warmer climates, tired of their constant demands. I don't know when to leave a girl alone, she says. I need some time to myself, time to relax, recharge the batteries. She likes high places and clean air. She's all alone up here, and you could say I had her all to myself if it wasn't for that gun. She carries a Chinese-made Kalashnikov AK-47 picked up in Oregon. She always packs a gun. No gun control for her. She's lifetime NRA. She's a terrorist on a mission of mercy. And my hands are tied to my typewriter with only the fingers free to work the keys. She whispers to me over the barrel of a gun, loaded words about explosions of roses and deserts that bloom with fire. She fills my head with tales of storming shopping malls. She sprays the crowd with bullets that turn into poems in the hearts of the people.
Love this poem. I love this poem.
Thank you so
This
much.
is my favorite. It's my favorite. I love this poem.
I'm sitting here wearing a necktie and a blue blazer because I'm the straight member of this group. That's why I'm dressed this way.
Okay.
Everybody came in a costume. This is also a kind of costume, as you know. You know, Frank Zappa used to rail at the audience. You're all wearing uniforms, you just don't know it. Carnival. Still have a lingering taste for bizarre surrealist conjunctions, empty though they are. Look as if they might conceal some hidden message written like this one just for you. Real message written in disappearing ink. Syllables buried inside syllables. Headed north out of Florence on Fat Tuesday, last day of Carnival. Gutters littered with pastel color hole punch confetti, remnants of revels, yellow, pink, and blue. I bought in a toy store in Levanto, a bunch of masks. Better than traditional Commedia dell'arte masks of Pantalone, some kind of creature from the crypt with rotting flesh, twisted to orangutan face like an Iroquois ceremonial mask. A hairy werewolf and a troll, just for me. A death's head with mossy teeth, one gold. Driving up through the mountains toward Milan on a truck route, I wore the skull mask and grinned death at truckers groaning up the hill. Surrealists believed that they could just set side by side disparate images yanked from reality, disjoint conjunction, the result a form of shock. The viewer can't ignore the image. Loss of context equals arrest, simulacrum of religious awe, aesthetic emotion that parodies the impulse to kneel. Sometimes not only shock results, but meaning, though meaning is almost always accidental. Some artists do more. Joseph Cornell, whose small object vocabulary grows more echoic, deepens with familiarity, takes on new meanings, spheres that may be bubbles, marbles, baubles, mangles, beads, gyroscope parts, globes, golf balls, ping pong balls. These spheres all planets, and the spheres they orbit in, whose music is beyond the reach of ears and earphones, but may be the pulse of pulsars in unsleeping night. And one such sphere is Earth, a wanderer in other spheres, a place where housing is always temporary. Its houses are all dream houses, never home. Empty palaces, unvisited grand hotels. Hotel des Voyageurs, Hotel des Étrangers, Hôtel Étoile, Grand Hôtel Univers, and again, Way Station Hotel Terminus. Places the traveler departs from, never to return from his long journey outward toward the stars. At some point, I began to think, more recently than that, I began to think that poems could be assembled from the elements or remains of the day, something that Wallace Stevens famously denied. And I started writing poems that were very closely tied to the moment in time. Although I revise them again and again, I don't leave things alone. It takes me a long time. The first of those poems is called The Parallel World. And it's really just a poem about a moment. It's fall again and I've left the world behind. I hear your voice hushed as you disappear out the front door, but I can hardly free myself to say goodbye, and I'm back in the other world. It's funny that the ripening, so heavy laden this year, all the fruiting trees, takes place just as the leaves grow dull and deaden as the lush of August shifts to a dry September. I feel each year that I have 1 year less, 1 winter more, and wonder how the hell I'll get through this one. Although there's nothing wrong with me, just joints that ache, which lately have begun to tell of changing weather and coming storms. My back gets cold at night. I wake, roll over, fall asleep again, huddled next to you, thinking as I slip back into the other world. And when I was 2 years old, wrapped in flannel, sleeping behind bars. This one's called Late Coming Fall. The leaves are turning late this year, reluctant due to climate change. Greenland is melting in the poles. Permafrost is no more permanent than anything else. 2 weeks ago, birds flocked noisily in the trees out back, a gathering migration. Prolonged farewells nobody wants, but long goodbyes are everywhere, we hear. God forbid I should survive my body as my father his, taking physical form as a thankless errand indeed. I wouldn't long to linger how much longer. When the birds go south with the Dow Jones averages, what about the leaves? They hang on this year. Shortened days, signal shutdown of chlorophyll production. But it takes colder nights than these to make the colors bright. From now on. But then fall stopped falling. Leaves no longer turn nor drop. And in that moment of prolonged suspension before the next year's deep recession, graves opened disgorging skeletons from lawns and hedges, and the hedge funds unwound until the Chinese banks bailed them out. The pond receded and the river too. Would it reverse course, flow backward, and the air grow thick with omen, and the hunter's moon give light to dreadful doings this Halloween, as grim November closed its hand and lawns were quenched by sprinklers because it didn't freeze? Oil prices rose and the unemployment numbers were bad. You can't make money in a market like this. I was less depressed to hear this news than I might have been, because I already knew. The signs are what they are, and what they say, and news is always bad, we know that. It's not news, so why be sad? It was as if the whole world waited for some fatal shift, but climate change is slow, and it becomes Virginia here, while I'm suspended in my own anticipatory pause, unsure what to expect as the season gives way to another season that isn't winter this year. Yes, we'll go skating on my lunch hour, but no snow blankets the earthly quiet. We talk of going camping up in Maine. You're all I've got. We'll have to ask each other for what we want to know from now on. Local weather. So it's a hurricane from the still vexed Bermudas, Noel, named by a witty meteorologist aware it's late. The season of equinoctial storms is past, and Christmas themes have turned up early in the store. It was that kind of low-pressure calm, a bubble of warm, wet air, pushed by turbulent high, that was the pause and not, as I half thought, the end of the world. Just another fall to die. Noah, I thought it was, before I saw it in print. I watch only local weather. Ours is emotional. Calm, then storm, then calm. The tropics sent north tropic airs. Tree branches waved in a huge wind. As with the migraine, I recognized the signs only in hindsight. Camping in Maine. Summer came back for a day and reminded you again that summer was gone and so much undone. I read the horoscopes for the month gone by to check their hyrospicatory accuracy. Reading signs back into what happened randomly, but it's not a good fit, or the designs awry. We woke and found the windows fogged. Had we steamed them up as in a car on Lover's Lane? Or was it warmer outdoors than in the house? Shall we open the curtains? You asked. I groaned. I like to see the day, she said. You said, yes, even when it's gray. Now I'm going to read a poem that I feel is a little risky to read in a place like Sarasota, but I can't resist the temptation. It's a poem about losing your mind, I suppose. The downhill slope. I never forgot a face, even if we'd never met. But if we were introduced, I remembered when, and I was always surprised. My feelings hurt. If you look right through me. Now I forget the faces of people I've just met, because everyone looks a little like somebody else I've seen before. As we age, we converge. I lose the knack for telling one face from another because I've lost refractory sharpness I can't recover. But no, in fact, I think people now look more and more alike. The human types are few, and we're all sorted into those few slots. You'd think getting older would mean more individuality, with all the character lines and lines produced by suffering. In some instance, moments of pain so intense that your face remembers what your brain forgets. These days I remember exactly when I met someone from long ago, but it's hard to recognize them now if I haven't seen them in a while. A woman has grown enormously fat. A man with prostate cancer, feminized, pink, swollen. At an art museum, a bunch of someone else's old friends gather, and though I've seen them all before, the room is full of strangers. I see less than I used to see, but notice things I never saw before. Is it about the world, or is it only me? I'd like to have something definite to say about this, but I don't, because I'm on the downhill slope. Let me tell you about it, I say. I don't want to hear about it, you reply. You don't want me to ask you too soon to share my last years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I thought the reading was really marvelous to see these folks get together after all these years. Some people we didn't even know were still writing, and people who I knew were young and frisky, and now they are having a cane and walking on 3 legs. Pretty soon it'll be 4. That was fun. I just want to thank Sondra Lunda for putting this together, and Kathy Raskin for doing all the necessary particulars, and the people who came in from far out of town in order to have a little get-together. That's extraordinary.